Welcome to another episode of the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, and also a best-selling author. And every single day, I help others unlock the potentials and guide them to succeed. Today, I have an amazing guest, and I am very, very honored to have been calling this person a friend for many, many years now. And this person is so successful in everything that she does. Everything that she touches, she turns into gold, or now turns into Bitcoin. She's absolutely incredible, very engaging, very down to earth, very, very humble, and just very, very energetic when it comes to helping mankind, helping other people succeed. She has a passion in helping others grow. She has a passion and a belief in self-sufficiency and also social sustainability. She has gone from being a paralegal to a real estate investor to an insurance broker to a online marketer to now a crypto expert. So please welcome the ever so amazing investor, entrepreneur, cryptocurrency expert, Chan Kawaguchi.
Hey, Fong.
Hey, how are you?
Glad to be here.
How have things been?
Oh, things have been good. I mean, never better.
Mm-hmm.
Considering all the crazy things that's happening in the world, it's the best time to be alive.
Awesome. Well, that's always what I find a lot of very successful, driven individuals, even when things aren't very good and things are kind of down and whatnot, they find a way to still push forward, find a way to really make things work for them. And you're one of those people that I think has always found a way to make things work and do it very, very well as well. So all the best to all the stuff that you do. Now, for people who don't really know who you are or what exactly you do, tell us a little bit of your history and how you got to where you are today.
Well, it came out of necessity, like our investment history. My husband and I, when we first met, I was in a 9-to-5. I was in oil and gas, doing oil and gas accounting, and we were pounding the pavement. And as you know, Sheen, my husband, he was an engineer. We came to the conclusion that just, the usual work is not going to get us our time freedom and our financial freedom. And at the time, we had our two dads who were sick with cancer, and they both didn't have very long to live. So we came, out of this through necessity. And, that's kind of a lot of the reasons why people end up doing what they do is probably from a pain point or from a necessity. And so we looked at different investment vehicles, like from the traditional, running a restaurant to food truck to, a franchise. Everything that we investigated and researched just told us that we were just trying to trade our secure job for an unsecure job for the same amount of pay and more time invested. So it just didn't work. And the only thing that at the time worked, this was 10 years ago, was real estate. And real estate, there was so many different strategies, so many proven ways, and so many experts in the field that we were just like, we have to do this. And it was just a way to hedge our way through inflation and, just, playing the monopoly game, buying up houses and getting rental income and getting ahead that way. And then when we had our first child, it was like, that we were able to leave our jobs. So that was, in a nutshell, our investment history, trying to hedge against inflation using real estate investment vehicles. Just finding different ways to hedge. And so what else can I share in regards to investment history? I mean, other than real estate in the past.
Well, you're one of those people who you actually went to law for a while as a paralegal. And then from there, you kind of got into the real estate stuff and you did really well in that. And there you went into insurance. And then within 6 months, you had no sales background. You became one of the top agents there. Then after that, you became a person in online marketing and then now crypto. What is that secret? What is that characteristic that you have that many people don't, that allows you to be successful in so many different things, in so many different industries?
Fong, I'm just a regular person, nothing special, honestly. But the one thing for me is I sometimes I think I'm the laziest person, but ambitiously lazy. So I really have to find effective efficiencies in our life. And so maybe that was from being bored in school and feeling like everything around me from the subjects were a little boring. And for me, like, I'm just going to take you back from when, after high school and figuring out, like, a lot of kids after high school have been pressured with, okay, what do I have to do? I'm just going to get a degree. And for me, I didn't have parents who pushed me to do the next thing, which was maybe go to university. And maybe that's one thing that set me apart was not that pressure. So I actually, my mom would say, if you want something, go and work for it because we're not going to give you that money. So having not enough money just propelled me to find a way to make money. And I didn't know a lot about money. It was like, okay, I got a job at a coffee shop, worked for 2 years, and I didn't even know how to write a resume. And I, put something together fast and, kind of a bit of luck and just being honest and saying, you know what, I don't know, but you know what, I will promise to make this commitment and work and improve myself. And so I did that with, as a waitress. And then I did that from there. I actually met a realtor at the time who was my first mentor. And I didn't even know the word mentor, what that was. And he's like, I'll be your mentor. And I said, sure. Okay. All in my head was like, how do I make more money?
Yeah.
And so he was teaching me different strategies. And he was my first mentor who showed me a system of, not putting my own money into this and just finding good partnerships, finding people that had resources that you could form a team and then together serve, meet a goal basically. And so that kind of started my journey of finding these techniques, finding people that could help me together, that we could create these like true win-wins. And everything from when I started into the paralegal work, I mean, I went from not having a degree, a waitress job, and then even taking time off for a year and traveling by myself. I went to New Zealand, Australia, like at 20, 21 years old, I was traveling the world. I went to several different countries by myself. Um, you know, it was scary for my parents, but at the time I wanted to find freedom. I wanted to figure out what it was I really wanted to do, even though I knew I wanted to create money. And so that led me into the paralegal world, where at the time, my parents had gotten in a car accident, a really bad one. And the lawyer that represented my parents said, he was a good friend of my parents and was kind of making small talk with me and said, and at the time I was translating, our language, which was Thai, to the English language because we had a big legal discovery with their case. And so the lawyer that represented me, Harris Hansen, he said, "Hey Chan, you've taken a year off. What are you going to do for work? Like, obviously you got to make some money." And I said, honestly, I haven't thought about it. Like, I feel like I'm coming back, just trying to help my parents, trying to survive, And so he offered me a position in his office doing secretarial work. And I was like scared. I was like, I've never worked in an office. Like, I went to Mount Royal and then I took a year off, traveled. I have no idea how to like manage or work in an office. He's like, don't worry, I'll train you and I'll teach you everything you need to know. And if you can last 2 weeks, it's up to you. Like, I just need someone for the next 2 to 4 weeks. So I said, okay, like, at this point, I'm like, I'll do it for free because honestly, I didn't really believe in myself. Mm-hmm. But what the background I came from was like, you work hard. My parents were always the type to work hard. You put your soul and heart into it. You show up an hour early and you just do it. There is no such thing as sick days. They had no clue like why people took time off from work. Like, they didn't understand that. So I grew up with that mentality. So I showed up every day, did what I have to do. But the thing I think that set me apart from the other workers maybe was putting some extra time into doing what you should be doing, but maybe staying curious and being like, okay, why am I doing this? And can we do it better?
Mhm.
So that was always kind of ingrained in me. And a lot of teachers at the time, and even in high school, like I would always kind of talk back and ask these questions like, you know, Fong, you know what a funny story is? I actually got kicked out of high school for missing a lot of school.
Wow.
I got suspended for truancy for 1 week. And it was kind of scary for my
Mhm.
parents, not scary for me, because obviously my mouth would be like, I don't get it. Like, I've missed this much school and you're suspending me for another week. Like, that doesn't make sense to
I
me.
know.
And my parents was like, no, 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 like don't talk back to the teachers. And I was like, I just blew my mind. So I always had this attitude of like finding better ways,
Mhm.
efficiencies, and things that didn't make sense to me. I didn't mind asking the questions, and sometimes um, it got a little political. So where was I? I mean, from paralegal, worked. You know, the 4 weeks that I promised
Yeah.
turned into 4 years
Wow.
with that firm, and I moved up, and I learned. And um, what I learned from that was creating good relationships, relationships with my boss, relationships with my, team members or my coworkers, and not getting into the drama of everything. And of course, there's always going to be politics and drama in every situation, but staying like having this peripheral vision, like looking at a bigger picture. Because in my mind, as much as I was here doing the work, there's another goal that I had to keep my target on,
Mhm.
and that was getting ahead. How do I get ahead? And when you know you asked how I got into the real estate, that was my side job
Mhm.
while I was doing my full-time work in the or in the paralegal world.
Mhm.
You know, Monday to Friday I was doing that work. After I got off work and on the weekends, I would figure out ways how I would invest in real estate. And I don't want to get into too deep on that, but it was just for fun. Like it was just, I was just looking at the market and looking at what people were doing. We actually had clients come into the office who were real estate clients, so I was helping with some of the transactions and the closings. And I thought, how do you do that? And I wanted to learn more. And from the very first deal I did at the restaurant when I was like, working at the cafe, um, I did that very one deal. It netted me some income, but at the time, a 21-year-old would be like, I'm going to take the money and travel. That's what I did. And when I came back and, I was offered that paralegal work,
Mhm.
I made some good money, but I was like, I'm not getting ahead. All my friends around me were, you know, having assets like cars and houses and talking about stocks. And those are terms that were very new to me. All I had were stories of my traveling experiences. So I didn't have much, and I wanted to learn how to buy more real estate and play the game again. So that's what I did. I ended up buying a few houses out in Saskatchewan. And funny enough, I've asked, this is where you ask the people around you,
Mhm.
people that mean well, people that love you. It could be friends and family, and they mean well, and they will be the worst, advice. And that's what I had. For 3 years, I asked my coworker who knew the Saskatchewan area
Mhm.
and said, "Hey, what do you think about investing in this house?" And she's like, "It's, she's like, you better run, because that is like the worst area you could pick up. Like, I would never want to live in that area."
Mhm.
Well, I mean, she didn't understand my strategy, of course, but it scared me. I'm like, oh, I don't want to invest. So for 3 years, I didn't, but I kept seeing the market. I'd go on MLS and be like, that $30,000 property is now 50,000, 60,000, and every year I would talk about this, it would double. So by the time I actually got into it, this house was like 120,000.
Wow.
That same house is in the same neighborhood was 120,000, bought and sold over and over again. So I said, you know what? I don't care. I'm just gonna do something. And luckily enough, I went on Kijiji and I found an owner who was very old. he was in the game for a long time, but him and I had messaged each other, and turned out he was selling a block of his a block of properties. So there was 5 properties, and he said, you know what? And I said, I don't know anything, but I've heard some things about, Saskatoon, and, I could use your help. And he said, you know what? I like you. I'm going to sell you all these properties, and you're going to, whatever you need. And so it was a private deal. He was scratching my back. I was scratching his back, and I had some issues with mortgages, and he helped me. And, working with good people, right, Fong?
Awesome.
So that's kind of what happened. I started in Saskatchewan, and then it turned out, I was doing some stuff in Alberta, and then I met Sheen, and found out her dads were sick. So in a nutshell, that's my investment history.
That's absolutely incredible. Find those right people. And I find it very funny that you started off by saying, I'm very simple like everybody else, and I'm very, very lazy. But throughout the whole time, you're saying how hardworking you are, how persistent you are, and connecting with good people and the personality you have. Like, you're not just simple. You're very incredible, and a lot of great success has come from your personality and your connections and the way you build relationships. And that story basically justifies how amazing and how great of a person you are when it comes to building relationships. Now, you've been in so many different industries. What's the first word that you could that comes to mind that gets you to go, wow, I really like this industry? So for instance, what about real estate makes you go, wow, I love that?
Oh gosh. Okay. With real estate, besides working with, I find problems,
Mhm.
and sometimes problems, when people look at that, could be like they will run away, they will hide, they will be in denial. But for me, problems can be opportunities.
Mhm.
So, for example, in real estate, when someone has a financial problem or a house problem, like they can't sell their home, they're going into foreclosure, they may be a landlord that's out of the province and can't take care of their property. In the residential real estate world, I find there's so many problems, and in that it turns into opportunities. Opportunities where, I mean, you're helping people, and that is a big driver for me. Like, it gets me into an emotional state when I feel like I could, help people in that sense, and create these, just not as a business opportunity for myself and my business, but for people that can get ahead, and teaching them and educating them that, hey, you know what, like, you may go into foreclosure, but do you know what that means? Like, it could affect your credit.
Yep.
And so why not help them? Why not save their credit? Why not, help them sell their house, and also give them money that they can make it through their equity, and not just take advantage of them. Like, show them that another system. So yeah, I find real estate it's got so many different strategies. And when I started in real estate, like in the early years when I was buying those houses that I had mentioned in Saskatoon, I didn't have a strategy. It was like, we called the buy, hope, and pray method. Like, the buy, hope, and pray method was speculation, which is like 95% of, I guess, the people who get into real estate will do. They don't have a strategy. They don't have a plan. They don't have this exit strategy. Like, what are you actually trying to do, and how do you exit from this? So when my husband and I actually took some courses and learning different strategies, that's where the big light bulb moment went off, and said, you know what? Like, I was doing real estate the wrong way. I was speculating. And to me, that was like, I didn't realize how much risk it was very risky. So I went into some risky deals, and that didn't turn out very well. For example, I listened to a realtor out in Vancouver. It was the 2006, 2000, before the financial crash. And, he sold me into the idea of buying a condo for 650,000 in Vancouver, a 2-bedroom condo.
Wow.
And before taking some strategy courses and learning about, you know, about how to have exit strategies, I just thought, okay, I'll buy this condo. The real estate agent said it was going to go up to 900 850, 900,000
Mhm.
in a year, no problem. Like that's how Vancouver was moving. And so I thought, oh yeah, like, I'll get some partners and, um, I was sold into that idea. And of course, a few years later, it didn't work out so well. And we were tying up lines of credits, we were tying up time. The thing that worked out was that we did have a tenant, but the laws were a little bit different in Alberta for landlords.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, that was a risky thing, lost some money through that. And I mean, I can say it now looking back that in hindsight, you learn from your mistakes. But while you're in it, while you're in that moment of the emotions of like you could have, there's two things. You're gonna think about like, okay, fleeing, like just getting away, or you do something about it.
Mhm.
And for us, it was like we didn't have that option. It was like, am I gonna die through this? And maybe it gets to that, literally people think that, and there's a lot of emotions, so people can really get there. And to me, I'm like, that's not an option. I cannot kill myself through this. I will survive. I will not die.
Yeah.
And so you just kind of take that little thing and you just push through. You
Mhm.
push through, and it just takes little wins, little steps. And so
Wow.
maybe that's the one thing some, like for me, I have to do. I feel like in this worst case scenario, am I going to die?
Mhm.
And if you answered no, then you've won. You can go on.
Well, you quickly went from there to become a very successful insurance person, and was one of the top sales agents in Canada, and having no sales background by doing that too. So, what about the insurance world
Oh,
really made you go, wow, I need to get into this too?
that was one of the best experiences and one of the worst. I mean, the worst meaning like I got into it out of sheer luck. Like I just, saw this opportunity, and I actually had to guess, like ask myself some personal questions like, am I even ready to do this? Because I have no idea. I didn't know anything about insurance. I didn't know about selling insurance. I didn't know any terminology about insurance. And although I had insurance for myself and my family, I just didn't understand how I could make money selling insurance.
Mhm.
And I guess I had this notion, like when I did in real estate, I had this notion of speculation. I had the same notion for insurance. I thought insurance was just like life insurance. You buy something, you're hedging, or you're betting that this could happen, and you leave something behind for your family. So that's all I knew. But the one thing I had was some incredible people, and that was Sheen. Sheen was like, you made this New Year's resolution. It was November of 2015. We spoke, and we made this resolution before the end of the year that was like, okay, what kind of things should we be doing? For me personally, it was learning something new, getting out of my comfort zone, and doing something other than real estate, something that would scare me enough to be like, oh my gosh, like it's gonna kill me. So insurance was like my calling at the time. It was like I didn't know nothing about it. It scared me to death, and it was something new that I could try. Getting out of my comfort zone. So when I looked at that opportunity, at the time it wasn't an opportunity. It was just like a scaredless, like freaky moment. Okay, so I took that freaky moment, and I'll be like, okay, all I can do is be an open book and learn. So
Mhm.
I promised my team I would do that, and that's kind of how I propelled. Um, so I was the very first agent in Calgary out of, like, I think there was 10 or 20 agents all in Edmonton, and even our team, our sales team, was like, okay, Chan, good luck, because we have no one to help you. Like literally, that's what they said. Good luck. We have no one to help you. And I think maybe that was the calling. That was what made me succeed, because sometimes when you have no one to help you, you figure it out. So that's what I did. I figured it out, and I figured out my ambitiously lazy way to find a system to make it work. And when I was in sales school learning about the insurance. First, you have to pass and get your license. So that was good. I passed. It was like, you know, I showed up, and you know, it's funny because one of the instructors for that class was, how you show up is everything, right? You know, how you present yourself is everything. And so I took that literally to the T, and I said, I'm going to show up early. I'm going to sit in the class, right in the front of the class, and I'm going to look like I know what I'm doing. And I really didn't, but I'm going to, appearance wise, I'm going to look. And so they wrote us this letter, like, this is what you have to do when you show up. And so I took it literally. I followed, you know, the plan, and I showed up, and I was in the suit, and can you imagine? I was the only one dressed up in that room.
Ooh.
Out of like 30, 40 people. And I looked back and I was like, am I in the right room? Like, did everyone get the memo? Because I was the only one dressed up. And the instructor was like, she looks like $1 million. Like, he's kind of like, what happened to you guys? What happened to everybody? You know, do you guys not get the letter? And I was just like, okay, like, I was, you know, I believed it. Like, I followed the plan. And so everything else just was the same thing. I just made that commitment and was an open book. And I just made sure I was not the smartest person. And it was not easy to do, because I still feel to this day, Fong, that I am not the smartest person. I just know a lot of smart people.
Very, like, very humble. And you still keep on saying you're very, very lazy, but then you follow up with what was that? Oh, you said something. I'm very, very lazy, but I'm gonna figure it out. The word lazy and I'm gonna figure it out don't very go together very well. But then from there, you figured it out all the way till now, and you're into crypto, and you're making crypto very, very successful for you. So what about crypto got you very interested into it?
Cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin in particular, yeah, that was out of necessity as well. When we got into real estate, Sheen and I, it succeeded, but it failed in a sense. We got out of our jobs. We had time and money freedom. In fact, like the first year we did real estate, we did 15 transactions. Ooh. Within about 8 or 9 months within that year. And I was lucky enough to leave my oil and gas job. And then the year after, in the summer, you know, we would, I don't know if I ever told you the story, like Sheen and I, you know, Sheen he had a goal too. He wanted to leave his work. I mean, he loved what he did, engineering. He loved the people, but he wanted to get out from being an employee, because in the back of his mind, he's like, they're not laying me off. They're not going to get rid of me. I'm not going to get a package. So he made a commitment to our business, in the real estate investing business, that he was going to leave by a certain time. So do you remember Jim Carrey, the comedian, who he's like, back before he got really famous and before anybody knew his name, he was laying in bed and he would stare up in the ceiling, and he'd be like looking every day at his vision. And every day was this piece of check or piece of paper that said, you're going to be worth $1 million. Yeah. Like every day when he woke up, it'd be like the first thing he saw. So it inspired me, because I said to Sheen, I said, you need to do that. You need to do what Jim Carrey did. And so he wrote a check. He took a blank check and he wrote to him, like the check was issued to himself, Sheen KAWAGUCHI, and he wrote a time on it, or a date. And that date was literally a year later into the future. Mm-hmm. And it would be from how much he would be worth, or how much would make him happy. This is where he found it would be a win. Mm-hmm. So it was like $1 million, right? So he wrote a check to himself, $1 million, and for the exact date, but a year later. And he would, so instead of posting in our ceiling, because like we're both short people, I couldn't get up to the ceiling. I ended up taping it onto a mirror in the washroom. Mm-hmm. So when you're like brushing your teeth or you're getting ready to be like 2 minutes, you're like staring at this check. And I would stare at his check too. I'd be like, I had no choice. I'd be like staring at his check, brushing my teeth for a year. And then, so what happened was, when we didn't even know this, but this is where, you know, like you're talking about law of attraction and things that come into your life, you put it out there. And, you know, it literally worked, because almost a year later. So when I left my job, sorry, go back, 2012, we started real estate investing. We incorporated a company. And then November of 2012, I left my oil and gas job. So that was fine and great. And then 2013 came around and Sheen was still in his job and he was hoping to leave and it wasn't happening because I was pregnant at the time. I was like, in December of 2013, we're going to have our baby. So we're going to have to figure this out. Like, if you want to leave your job, I don't know what's going to happen. And you know what? In July, he comes home and he gives me like the biggest news and it wasn't good news. And he was like, oh, he wasn't like sitting, he wasn't like, you got to sit down and listen to this. He was just like, came home and he's like really happy. And he's like, guess what, Chad? I quit my job. You know, and I was like, I wasn't celebrating Fong. I was like, wait a minute, what? You know, like I don't know. My world was like, I was not celebrating. So I killed his spirit at that moment. I was like, what about our mortgages? We got to get all these mortgages for these houses. And, you know, what are we going to do? We're having a kid and you just quit your job. Like, what the heck? And he's like, no, it's going to be good. Like, I can really do this full time and do the real estate thing. But you know what? He's an engineer. So he had a plan. He had a, you know, on a spreadsheet, he's like, okay, come take a look at this. So we did sit down and we looked at the macro, the bigger picture of what he was trying to do. So we had the whiteboard going, we had our spreadsheets open, and he's like, look at it, look at how much we did. Look at the profits we got from each deal. Look at, you know, the people that we helped. And so looking at the bigger picture and going forward was like a true testament to kind of revisiting like what we were doing, and we weren't looking at like our wins. Like for me, it was like, okay, what's the next thing? And so when we did that, it was huge, but it was still scary because now we don't have some security. And back to the Jim Carrey story, you know, it was really emotional because I went to the washroom and I was just like trying to breathe. I was like pregnant and I was like, what, you know, I hope we're doing the right thing. And then I looked up and there was that check on her mirror and it said July, it was like middle of July, like July 14th or 15th of that year, which was written a year ago. And we were like 2 or 3 days off. It was like July 12th or 13th, like 2 or 3 days off from when Sheen quit his job, when he announced he quit his job. And I was like, and when we looked at the net worth, we looked at all the spreadsheets. I mean, like we didn't get close to $1 million, but it was like pretty darn close, you know? And I was like, oh my God, this law of attraction thing works. And sometimes when you don't even believe in yourself, and you put it out there, it will work.
Right. Awesome.
So I don't know how we did it, but we had like this grit in ourselves that we can't give up. Like first it wasn't about us, it was about our dads. Mm-hmm. Then it wasn't about us, it was about the clients and the people that we could help and save. Then it wasn't about me, it was about my insurance clients that I needed to educate. It's still not about me, Fong. So
awesome. Back to crypto. What is it exactly about crypto makes you go, you know what, this is the next big thing that we need to get into?
It didn't start off as the next big thing to get into. I mean, when I first heard about Bitcoin in particular, it was in 2012. And yeah, I just met Sheen. And we just heard it around the block. It was like, you know, I wasn't excited about it. I mean, I was like, I'd rather get physical assets because it has something, it has value, and I could see it, touch it, mm-hmm. and hear it and taste it. Like I could see it. I love that. I love real estate for that. So it didn't dawn on me that it was crypto I really wanted to get into. In the recent years, how we got into it is quite funny too, because we actually got invested in a program that literally scammed us. So these pyramid schemes, and where you bring in one person and you keep bringing people that you know, and the only way to get paid out is people. And it was around the cryptocurrency space.
Mhm.
And really, it was just money that we were throwing around, trying it out as a game. And it wasn't going to change our lives. It was just something to do at the time. And we were hearing so much news, I guess, around it that we just thought we want to get into the hype. And that's a lot of the news happens around that. They get you excited, there's hype around it. It's maybe in a bullish market where things are always going to go up, they're not going to go down.
Mhm.
And so we wanted to get into that excitement. Does that help with how we got started?
Well, what was that? What was that turning point where you go, you know what? This is something that we need to put more time and effort into, and we're going to make this the next thing. Because
Okay.
this is, you went through the journey of, yeah, this isn't really going to be something we're going to be putting a lot of time on. Oh, this strategy doesn't sound very good. We're just going to jump on the hype for a while. And then there must be one point where you go, you know what? This is the next thing. This is something we need to do.
Okay. Okay, I'll back up and I'll share with you the situation we were in when we first bought our Bitcoins.
Mm-hmm.
And it was to play that game, to play that that scammy Ponzi scheme game that we, in hindsight, we didn't know. We knew it would collapse eventually, but we didn't know how bad it would be. And so the way we had tried to find Bitcoins at the time was we didn't know anybody who sold Bitcoins. We didn't know how to get on an exchange. That's the hardest part still today. Like, people are having trouble finding ways to buy Bitcoin. Privately, I mean. So you could easily go to, an exchange, different apps and systems and programs. But at the time we were like, well, we don't know much about this thing. And a friend of mine, one of our partners, was like, well, I know a guy that knew a guy. So that guy that knew a guy, we went to the bank, got out a bank transfer, and sent some money out. And we were playing the hope and pray game again. And this is back like real estate. Like, let's hope and pray that this speculative property goes up, or we get it. And we were hoping it closed on the Bitcoins. And so about 5 days later, it did show up in my wallet. So we were like, wow, okay. And at the time, it was like in 2017, early 2017. And it showed up, and we were like, yes. And of course, Sheen was very, when he looked at the bigger picture of what we were doing, it didn't make sense. He's like, wait a minute. Okay, if we're doing this, it just seemed like too good to be true. And we didn't want to put our partners' money at risk either, because we had partners involved in the Bitcoin space. And so we said, okay, partners, let's stop this and let's wait maybe a day just to see how it went. And the partners didn't agree at the time. They were like, no, we got to act fast. Like, they're the type where they have money and it's just like, jump in and figure it out later. And that's kind of my attitude. But when you have a partner, it's so great because they check in with you. You're checking in with your emotions. You're checking in with, your head and your heart. And so my partner at the time was Sheen. And for me, I'm like ready to jump in, like figure it out later. And Sheen was like, wait a minute, like, this is just not happening. There's something going on that doesn't seem right on paper. So let's just take 24 hours and figure this out, because 24 hours was not going to hurt us.
Yep.
And so luckily we did. And in that moment, the next day, like, the whole thing just collapsed. The whole game that we were playing, and we had in our back of our head knew that it would collapse. So two things came out of that. We lost some Bitcoins in the game, which, we weren't going to lose sleep over. And then we gained some Bitcoins, and now we can figure out what to do with them. And so, you can either give up or you could keep going and get educated. So we chose the education route. We chose to figure out some strategies. Just like real estate, we weren't going to give up. We had no choice. We now have, 2 kids. So at this point, we were on a desperate mode to figure out more about the hedging. And in 2014, we slowly started selling off our real estate portfolio because at the time, people were in a frenzy to buy real estate at this price. We bought it here. People were buying in 2014 here, and rents were not increasing. So we were like, as much as we wanted to have a store of value, a hedge against inflation, this is the opportunity. This is not for the next few years. I don't think this will happen where we would have this type of market. So it was a really, really frothy market. And we were like, when everybody's buying, we were just the other view of let's sell. So we did sell a big chunk of our portfolio, and we had enough capital that we needed to move it into something else. And so we didn't end the real estate game. You know, we still had that. We still had some rental properties, but it wasn't our main way to hedge anymore. And so that took me on a path to looking at the inflation problem that's going on. And fast forward, you know, last year when we had the pandemic and we had the government helping us out with a lot of helping businesses and families, and you know, the M2 money supply in Canada, like literally this year the M2 money supply was increased by 19%, and real estate prices were, the values were 20% higher than last year. So it was like, go figure, like talk about artificial inflation. I mean, it's real estate's a great hedge, but it's not like our long-term focus. So we needed to look at something that was another solution. And the solution we found was actually Bitcoin. Funny enough, like this physical asset that I thought of real estate turned into a digital asset, which everything is moving into this digital world. It's become a paradigm shift for my family, for myself and my family, in a sense where it's a philosophical view that I find in Bitcoin, where the community comes together, the network effect, it's spread across continents, it's global, and it's this digital monetary system that we literally have that is not controlled by any government agency. And it's just you and I could be transacting. And that's where we found the philosophy of Bitcoin, where it's like this mechanism that's going to work for us that we needed anyways. And then it's like, how do you make money from this? So that's kind of how it started. And it was out of necessity of having kids. So when we have our two kids, I had to, you know, when you're a big believer in insurance and preserving wealth through, you know, inheriting and having a will. So when we set up our will, it was like we needed to have an inheritance plan. And a great book that I read was from Pamela Morgan, who's an attorney, and she's also a crypto expert. And she said, you have these crypto assets. How do you make an inheritance plan? And so I followed her plan, and I wrote our inheritance plan. And what I didn't learn in the book really was about my kids are going to ask me why. So I needed to write another letter to the kids in the future. So when they would ask, like, Mom and Dad, why did you leave the traditional finance system and invest our money, our inheritance, into this like digital system? And so that's my light bulb moment was, okay, the why. Like I wrote the letter of why we had to do this, and I spelled out why. And that just led us to, you know, advocating Bitcoin and figuring out how to navigate the cryptocurrency world.
So over the last few years, we saw crypto go like skyrocket from thousands to 20,000 to 50,000, and now it's hit about 70,000 or more. Why is it still a good time for people to get into crypto or Bitcoin right now?
Good question. 2017 was when we got into crypto. 2017, when we bought our first Bitcoin, it was around 3,000 Canadian. And we were going, I didn't understand the market, but we were going through a bullish market. Everything was going up till the end of the year. And in fact, I was at a conference, one of those, it was a landmark conference, and I had a colleague come up to me and said, "Hey, what's the next thing you're doing besides real estate?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm just trying to accumulate some of these Bitcoins." And I said, "I believe it could be the future. I have no idea." And so I started dabbling in it, and she was interested in it. She's like, "How do I even buy a Bitcoin?" And I said, "Well, I can sell you some." And so I actually transacted with this person, and she bought her first Bitcoin. And she's like, "Wow, this is like super easy." And so she had that for like till the end of the year. It was July she first bought it, and then at the end of the year, I had another friend come up to me and says, "Hey, I want to acquire one Bitcoin." And it was like, you can see the trajectory. Like you said, it was increasing. It went from 3,000, and then it was like 10,000. And then by the end of the year, it was like 25,000 Canadian. And to me, it was like getting a little frothy. It was like everybody's wanting to buy. I had people from all walks of life asking, like, "How do I buy Bitcoin?" And it was like kind of like real estate. It's like everybody's like lining up, putting like these bids, like bidding wars to buy our property. And there was no way we would buy it at that price. But if everybody's asking, like, okay, maybe this is a good time to sell. So when when the community is asking about this, we were just a little skeptical. And so that one colleague from Landmark had asked me to buy that Bitcoin was around 3,500.
Mm-hmm.
My other friend who asked to buy Bitcoin wanted to buy it at a $25,000 price. So I put the two together. I'm like, "Hey, there's a lady who wants," she's like, "Hey, I got this Bitcoin." She saw it increase. She's like, "I do want to sell. I want some money to buy, my next car." She needed 20,000. She's like, "I'll sell it at a discount." And I had a friend who wanted to buy. And so put them together. I'm like, I don't care about, like, I don't need to get a fee or anything. I just wanted to get them to learn about Bitcoin and transact, and I was happy. So that was 2017 of December.
Wow.
And by January 2018, things started to go plummeting down. And, looking at the history, so when is a good time to get in? We have this saying in the Bitcoin world was, when it was a good time to buy Bitcoin? Yesterday. When's the next good time to buy Bitcoin? Today.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking at charts, Sheen, we just did a call yesterday. We have some friends who wanted to learn the technical analysis and some fundamentals on the trading of the cryptocurrencies. And when you look at the history of Bitcoin from 2012 to what it was doing in the markets to 2017, there's this graph that shows that it went, because every 4 years there's this Bitcoin halving, and the blocks get cut in half, the rewards, right? And so when every halving that happens, between that, Bitcoin seems to go up in price, the value. And so it does this thing. It did this historically for the last 2 cycles. And so we're in another cycle last year, 2020, in November, we started seeing prices increase. The same year, 2020, in March, it was like really inexpensive to buy Bitcoin compared to now.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you see that happening and you look at the graph, and maybe I could share that, whether it's later on or a reference link, but we're happy to share what we've researched and looked. We are still in the very beginning of this cycle. That's why I really believe for our family, for our kids, for our generations to come, that this is the best time to be alive, because we have an opportunity. And whether you just buy a little bit and you put it away, that is an opportunity to create wealth for the next generation.
So for people who go, okay, let's get something. Let's get started. Let's go get some form of Bitcoin. What's the first step for people to take when they want to do that?
The first step, I believe in education. It's because acquiring Bitcoin is the easiest way. Like it's easy to get it. There's many different ways, and we can talk about that. Whether you want to go through the KYC or the privacy route, it's there, it's available. But when we talk about the maintaining it and securing it, because this technology, the blockchain technology that's in Bitcoin, is not forgiving. So if you lose it, you lose it. There's no company out there. There's not a mandate. There's no contract. There's no person or company that will help you retrieve it if you lose it. It's not like a bank. So there's some good and bad with it. So I believe in education. I believe in just getting educated in how to secure it, how to properly secure it, because there's a lot of things that are happening in this world right now, where when you look at technology, the scams, the phishing scams, identity fraud, things that are happening that my own mom, sister, uncle, mother-in-law, like they can easily get scammed if they don't know what they're doing. So acquiring it is the easy part. The hard part is understanding it and being educated on how to secure it.
Mm.
So I believe in the first step is just educating people. So taking a philosophical view of how it could help mankind, in anybody can transact in it. It's decentralized. It's not controlled by anybody. It's quick. It's not like the archaic banking system. Mm. There's so many benefits that we can share in the why, and then understanding the security. So having, when we talk about like the hot wallets and the cold wallets, how to properly secure, how to be a custodian, like you keep your own keys. And as much as it's like, you deposit money in a bank, yes, the bank has your money. And when you request to withdraw, the bank should give you your money, but you go in and ask for $10,000, you can't get money out that day. And it's like, okay, that was my money. It's like, oh, no, we have to make an appointment. We don't carry that much money in the bank. And, imagine you got countries like, they have a run for their money and banks could shut down. So, so in the digital world of Bitcoin, it's like you keep your money with you. Mm-hmm. You don't have someone else be a custody for you. So we teach about that, and there's different ways to do it. So that's the first part. That's the most important, is educating. And there's still a lot, and I'm still learning in this space too.
Yeah. Now, what would you say is one of the biggest myths about cryptocurrency or Bitcoin that stops people from taking that first step?
The biggest myths, I would say there's quite a bit, but I would say, it doesn't have value. Mm-hmm. Like there's no intrinsic value until you actually look at the technology. So, and maybe I can have a reference, like a link to this too, when Sheen can talk about this more in detail. But when you look at the technology, like, okay, look, I don't understand how internet works. I use internet. I know why it's important, but I don't really understand how it works. Like unless you're like a programmer, developer, like software engineer, like you could figure out how it works. But the average person like me, honestly, Fong, I don't know how it works. But it's open. It's open for anybody to use. It's free. I'm sorry.
I said, how do these ones and zeros work?
Exactly. Yeah. But it's open and available for everybody to use, and you can create, companies out of it. And so it's kind of like, I see Bitcoin like this internet technology, mm-hmm. where we are not going to get away from it. It's not going to disappear. We just need to understand it, mm-hmm. and use it. But literally, like, I don't really understand it. But it's important for mankind right now, humankind, for our children. So yeah, the biggest myth would be like, there's no value, there's nothing attached to it. But when you look and pull away the curtains, there's like a technology that's very, very like complicated, but simple enough for us to understand, where no one controls it. It's open source.
Mhm.
The creator is even anonymous. There is a finite amount of Bitcoins compared to the central banking, where they're printing, like we talked about the M2 money, we talked about the inflation of money. Well, there's no inflation. In fact, it's a deflation. It's the value will have to increase because
Mhm.
there's a decrease. Like there's going to be 21 million coins that will be minted in Bitcoin. So there's a cap on that. There is, the myth is that it could be, maybe it's not adoptable, or it'll die. It's just like a hype and it'll just disappear. But now we've got countries that their currencies are collapsing. They're talking about digital currencies. But the problem with that is it's going to still be manipulated and controlled
Mhm.
by something central. And so this is the only solution I could see that will save our kids from inflation.
Well, very, very well said. You're a person who's been coached and mentored by many, many people. What would you say is one of the most life-changing coaching advices that you've ever gotten?
You just threw that one on me, hey? The most life coaching changing. Just staying curious, like just staying curious and not being the smartest person in the room, and surrounding yourself with smart people. That's always kind of been the thing for me, is that I come and I'm open and I keep learning. And if I don't have an answer, I do know a lot of people that do. I hope that helps.
That's good. And then my final formal question to you is, you have an opportunity to be on stage to speak to everybody in the world. What would that one message that you want to spread to the world be?
Oh, Fong, you ask great questions. I haven't thought about this. The one message, it's in the realm of how can I do better for the world? And my message for the world would be, when we talk about self-sufficiency and social scalability, it's around that. It's about how to be self-sufficient, how to scale and helping the world, and helping the community around you. So this Bitcoin world drives me for that. Like the crypto world drives me. And I'm excited to share with our kids that this is a solution. Like there's multiple ways to create freedom. This is like true freedom. I don't know. The message would be to look at, it's not like storing a value or acquiring these assets, but like how do you create freedom for everybody?
Mhm.
And Bitcoin is the solution. It's freedom. I guess that's my message.
Oh, that's good.
I
I
wish I
like
had
how you
something. I
always
wish I had something better
I like how you always bring it back to for humankind, for
for
mankind,
humankind.
for everybody out there. Very, very powerful. All right, so I have 5 very quick questions. Give me the first thing that comes to mind. Okay. The first thing is, if you had an opportunity to do any business deal with any person that you want in the entire world, who would that be that you want to do a business deal with?
Who would I want to be? Oh gosh. Okay, well, number one, you and Jessica. Number two, I don't know. I like Tony Robbins.
Mhm.
Like he's so the opposite of me. Like he's so, so much taller and louder, and he can speak, and he's so engaging and bubbly, and he can change the world with his words.
Awesome.
So I don't know. I like Tony
So,
Robbins.
so Tony Robbins is at your doorstep. Okay, you hear the doorbell ring. You open the door. He's there. He goes, you know what? Hey, Chan, I'm hungry. Let's have dinner. What can you serve me? So
Oh my gosh.
What's that
I,
special dish that you could cook for Tony Robbins?
I'd be like, I make mean steak. Do you want some steak and lobster?
Sounds
He
good.
looks like he's a steak eater. I don't know. I don't think of him as a vegan or vegetarian. So,
All right. So you're on stage again, and you just finished delivering your amazing message for everybody to hear. And then now it's time for you to showcase a hidden talent that you can perform. What would that hidden talent be?
oh, hidden talent. That I could perform. Um, it wouldn't be singing. It has to be on stage.
Well, just a hidden talent that you're willing to do.
Fong, I don't know. I don't think I have a hidden talent. I'm just a regular girl. I mean, I can't really showcase giving birth. Like I've given birth at home, but like
I don't think that's going to be something that's broadcast. All right, so I'll let you dwell on that for a moment.
okay.
One food that you can eat for the rest of your life with no consequence.
One food. Bubble tea. I drink bubble tea for the rest of my life if there wasn't a consequence. I'm addicted to bubble tea right now.
And then finally, what is success like? But before that, give me a number between 1 to 3.
3.
1, 2, 3. So how is success? Like a hoodie.
Success is like a hoodie, where you live like, you put this thing over your head and you just keep low. And to me, that's success. You keep low. You're not out there. You're living in like this part of the world where kind of no one knows where you are and what you look like, and nothing's fancy. Like you just have this dark hoodie on and you're just like a regular Joe. And that's success, is being a regular Joe and doing what you feel like you want to do with you and your family, the people that you care about, but anonymously helping the world.
Very, very well said. And it wraps it all back to the beginning when you said you're just a normal person, and very simple. So very well done. Thank you very much for your stories, for your experiences. Is there anything else that you wanna share with us?
Just I'm excited. People feeling like the pandemic, COVID, with everything that's happening around, maybe not having work or whatever you feel like is a depressing moment, know that you're in the best lifetime. Like this is the best time to be alive, and there's opportunities out there. Mm-hmm. So just keep seeking out for that and asking the questions and finding your community, finding the people that can help you.
And for others who wants to pick your brain some more, learn more about the Bitcoins and crypto, what's the best way to reach out?
I don't have a website set up yet, but I will. But just maybe, gosh, what's the best way? Maybe an email, the KAWAGUCHI88@gmail.com would be the best way. Yeah.
Good. Well, great. Well, once again, thank you very much for your time and your experiences and your wisdom. And that is all for us today. She is Chan. My name is Fong. Until next time, today is the day to unlock your peak potential. We'll see you later.